I never thought that I'd be branded as a terrorist in my life, escaping my home country on a boat.
It was very difficult to explain it to my 3 girls and take them on a dangerous journey. But we never thought that things would ever get to this extent. I was accused of being part of a terrorist organization by simply working in an educational institution.
I have to start my life over now from scratch, having to learn a new culture and a new language. I have no idea whether I will be able to see my home country ever again.
For me, a home is a place where you and your family feel safe. Unfortunately, we were not safe in our own country.
We lived a normal life like any other person in Turkey. We did not have any problems. I was an executive in a prep school, and my wife was employed as a history teacher in a private school. When I was at university, me and many of my friends could easily have been accepted into an engineering or medicine program, but instead we chose to study teaching and science, and we became teachers. We used to listen to the talks and read the books of Fethullah Gulen, which convinced us teaching was an ideal profession to help mold the future generations. What we learned from Gulen is that education is the most basic principle to build and educate the next generation. So we chose to become teachers to help make a difference and benefit the future of our country.
The Gulen or Hizmet movement is a transnational social initiative inspired by the life and views of Turkish Islamic cleric Fethullah Gulen, who has lived in the US since 1999. Having a large support in the Turkish community, the movement supported the current Erdogan government from the early 2000s up until before 2010 and helped shape policies towards EU membership, the democratization of Turkish politics, and to help improve basic human rights and freedoms allowed to Turkish citizens.
Members of the current ruling party used to want to be part of the Hizmet movement to help better education, business, and other fields. It was unbelievable how these two groups who were so close to each other and ultimately ended up like this. As far as we know, a corruption investigation was undertaken at the end of 2013. The government claimed that the corruption was merely a fabrication, and they claimed that this investigation was coordinated by the Hizmet movement, so they started acting against the movement.
On December 15, 2013, the Turkish police revealed the country's largest graft probe in its history. News bulletins showed police raids on the houses of AKP politicians, businessmen, and people from Erdogan close circles. Many people were detained as part of investigations. Instead of waiting for judicial process to end, Erdogan blamed Gulen sympathizers in the police and judiciary for attempting to overthrow his government and calling it an international plot. All police officers, prosecutors, and judges who took part in these investigations were arrested later over charges of being part of the plot against the government of Turkey.
A corruption probe in Turkey is sending shockwaves through the government. More than 50 people have been detained, some with high-level political connections.
Turkish court has officially arrested 14 more people of those dozens who were detained as part of this corruption probe, and they include the sons of the interior minister and the economy minister, as well as the head of the state-owned Halk Bank. Some of these people received shoeboxes full of cash from an Iranian businessman who was buying passports from the Turkish government.
At the time, we used to meet with members of parliament and discuss this, as the division between the two groups was not yet so clear. The MPs used to say the chief decided on it, and we have no say in this. Although we were so close, they had no influence on it. Like I said, they used to trust their children in our care, in our schools. Nobody would entrust their children in the care of people whom they do not trust. And that terrible night came.
Turkey. The prime minister says a military group has engaged in an attempted coup.
Let's go back to the breaking news out of Turkey. What the prime minister there is calling an attempted uprising and what looks increasingly like an attempted coup.
To our other top story tonight, Turkey in chaos in the wake of a failed coup attempt.
A faction in the Turkish army attempted a coup on July 15, 2016. Turkish parliament and several state institutions were bombed by fighter jets. 300 people died during the coup. The number of killed putschists are still unknown. At the early hours of the attempted coup, Erdogan tried to blame the attack on Gülenists in the army. Immediately after news spread, Gulen talked to international media and denied accusations.
Who is this Muslim cleric? And give us a little background here. Potentially, is he the person behind this attempted coup?
Fethullah Gulen is a respected Islamic theologian. He now lives in Pennsylvania, of all places, and he commanded a large following in Turkey. Indeed, that following once lent their support to Mr. Erdogan. Fethullah Gulen and his followers have really been blamed for anything that goes wrong in Turkey. To my mind, it's not really credible that, you know, a cleric who's not terribly well living in Pennsylvania could have organized a major coup attempt, you know, thousands of miles away on the other side of the ocean.
Gülen denounced the attempted overthrow.
I consider what has been done is directly against our nation, an act of treason aimed to end the unity of the people.
For me, the July 15th coup attempt was a staged act, because they previously tried to end the movement within the law and soon realized that they would not be able to do it legally. I think it behooves that as of July 16th, 2016, a genocide against Hizmet has started. People have been dismissed via government decrees, and thousands of people were arrested. From that time, my wife and I started hiding in different cities in Turkey, because there were arrest warrants against us. We watched what happened after July 15th in a state of shock. People who used to be arm to arm with us now supported the government's stance. And suddenly, overnight, they said, no, these people are not the people you knew and trusted your children with for years. They said, they are terrorists.
All of a sudden, everyone has become strangers to us. None of our friends were around. They were either imprisoned or left in the country. Any still left in Turkey, we were scared to contact one another. It was the most difficult 2 years for us and our children.
A large group of Gülenists were arrested after the 2016 coup attempt. As of today, over 500,000 people have been investigated, and nearly 100,000 have been arrested. Among those jailed include people such as journalists, political activists, human rights defenders, teachers, police, judiciary members, and students. There are also over 800 babies in Turkish prison jailed with their mothers.
It was my wife who insisted on leaving the country first. I thought about it as well, but my mind was with my jailed friends and their families outside, who need financial and psychological help. It was very difficult to choose one.
I wanted to leave immediately after July 15th because my husband's US visa was about to expire. I tried hard to convince my husband, but I couldn't because I did not want to live such a life. My kids were mentally ready to leave. Leaving the country was the only option for them to be together with their father again. One day, I told my mom that the kids missed their father too much. We decided that we were going to go out with the kids to see their father for a few days in a hidden place. She did not know. I could not even bid a proper farewell to her. Perhaps I might not have been able to leave if I said goodbye. We left and started walking. She was looking at us from her window. I looked back and she was still there. I walked a little more so she couldn't see us anymore. Then I sat the kids down and told them that we are leaving. They didn't even react. There was no fear or anything in their eyes.
While we were preparing to leave our country and start a dangerous journey, we heard the news of Osman Unalan, who died in Greece of cancer. She was one of the lucky ones to cross Maritsa and was waiting with her children to be united with her husband in Germany. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it.
Rabbim yardımcısı olsun gelmek isteyenleri. Allah kurtarsın herkese.
The Uludeg family was a victim of the post-2016 coup attempt persecution of the Gulen movement in Turkey. Husband Mehmet Ali managed to leave the country first and reach Germany to seek asylum. Their intention was to unite again after wife Esma and their 3 children left Turkey. They managed to cross Maritsa and were waiting in Athens to complete their official process to go to Germany.
Beni aramış, görmedim ben. Sonra mesaj çekmiş. Hemen aradım, dedi sağ tarafım uyuştu dedi. Dilim, dudağım uyuşuk dedi. Defalarca yazmış bunu. Hemen aradım. Sesi farklı geliyordu. Dedim ne oldu? Dedi ben felç geçiriyorum dedi. Dedim ne felci? Ya dedim yok dedim, öyle bir şey yok dedim yani. İnanmıyorum ben yani, inanmak istemiyorum. Aklımın en ufak şeyinden ölüm gelmiyor. Hiç yani herhalde yani en son kişi olarak düşünüyordum belki de yani ölebilecek yani. O kadar böyle hayat dolu bir insan. Cıvıl cıvıl ya. Yatıyor sediye, abi diyor oku diyor. İşte bana selamını iletiyor. İşte onu çok sevdiğimi söyleyin diyor. Sonra dua ede de işte bilinciyi kaybediyor. Sonra işte hastaneye ulaşıyor. Hastanede müdahale ediyorlar ama yarım saat içerisinde vefat ediyor. Bir taraftan arkadaşlardan dua istiyorum o arada. Ama hala ölüm gelmiyor aklıma. Çaresizsin. Düşün, yani 3 çocuğun annesi. Hiçbir şey yapamıyorsun. 1600 kilometre uzaktasın. Bir telefon kadar yakın ama hiçbir şey yapamıyorsun.
We didn't know what was waiting for us, but we knew one thing. We needed to leave this country to have our freedom back.
I can't explain my feelings after I heard about Isma Uluda dying in a foreign land, leaving 3 children behind, motherless.
We contacted a man who took people across the border. We got their contact information from friends who crossed before. Of course, they place you in a queue. It was the last week of Ramadan, and we got the news. They told us we would leave June 14th. On that day, we made our journey to the border with 10 people in a small car. Despite everything, everyone was joyful. For the children, it was like we were playing a game. The driver said they would drop us off in 10 minutes, and we would have to walk the rest. When we stopped, they made us get out in a rush, saying that the police were coming. They took out our bags, threw them on the ground, and left hastily. That was the moment both us and the children realized the gravity of the situation.
My younger daughter was a bit overweight, and she never liked walking. We were worried about her. For the 13 hours we walked, she did not complain once. At the end of the day when we looked at her, she turned completely red. Later, we asked her how she endured it. She said she would do anything to be with her father. This was her response, and thank God we did it.
Sometimes we crawled, sometimes we climbed over trees. 3 hours passed like that. We went into a rice field. The rules were clear. No light. Pitch dark. Don't make any sound. Follow the guide ahead. When we arrived at Maritsa, the river looked shallow, and I thought, how could people drown in here? Then I saw something that looked like a little boat. It was a big log of wood, and it passed very fast. That's when I realized that though the river looked calm, there was a strong current. The guides inflated the boat. There were 10 of us in total. Then our bags and other stuff. It was at that moment I thought, it is a grace of Allah that those boats do not sink under those circumstances. What I experienced there was maybe the most tragic moment as a father in my life. I have never felt more powerless. I started planning which one I should save first, my wife and 3 kids. I had to plan in my mind toward which side, whom and how I would save them. I have talked about it several times when we arrived in Canada, whether I would risk the lives of my children and wife, if I would go back to Turkey and choose to cross the Maritsa again. I doubt it. When I took my first step onto Greek soil, I felt strange. It was the beginning of another journey for us.
The moment we crossed over into Greece was a great relief and joy. After 2 years, I felt like I was finally able to breathe again.
We just walked 23 kilometers. The kids had bruises all over their bodies. We went to a park, bought some food, some juice. They ate and all fell asleep on the spot. I decided to take them to a hotel where we were detained by Greek police. After we explained that we were from the Gulen movement and fled Turkey, they made it easy for us. We were in detention for 8 days. Then they gave us a 6-month residence permit in Greece, and we were released.
There was a family with us in the boat who had a 2-year-old baby. The baby had a heart condition. My eldest daughter told me after we crossed into Greece that the baby's mother told her about the baby's heart problem. She said, "You're old enough." She was 10. "If they separate us, please at least take care of our baby." She told this to my daughter.
After being released from detention, we took a flight from Athens to New York in August. My brother was in the US, so we stayed with them for a week. We applied for a Canadian visa, but it was rejected. We then committed our second illegal border violation and crossed into Canada.
Since the beginning, we always wanted to move to Canada. We also asked the kids to pray for that, and it came true, and we are here now.
When our journey to Canada was almost about to end, I heard some terrible news that happened in Maritsa.
Hatice abla! Hatice abla! Hatice abla! Hatice abla!
Murat Aksabe was a colleague of Ali back in Turkey. He was also a teacher in a Gulenist educational institution. Like Ali, they also wanted to escape from persecution via Maritsa. However, they weren't lucky like Ali's family. Their boat was overturned by the strong current of the Maritsa River.
Mesut'la Ahmet Sat'ı yakaladım. Batmamaya çalışıyoruz, mücadele ediyoruz, çırpınıyoruz. Yaklaşık 150-200 metre kadar batmadan gittik. Mesut'u bıraktım, tuttu diye Ahmet Esat'ı alırken baktım ki Mesut düştü. Ay ışığı, yani zifiri karanlık, hiçbir şey görmüyorsunuz. Mesut, acaba öldü mü diye Mesut'u kendime doğru çevirdim. Gözleri ayrılmış Mesut'un. Rüya olabilir mi diyorum. Allah'ım ben ölürsem hepsi ölür. Ne olur diyorum, güç kuvvet ver. Ahmet Esat Mesut diye bağırdım. Sesleri yok. Birkaç defa bağırdım. Sağa sola baktım. Sesleri yok. Sadece ışığı görüyorum. Çocuklar gitmiş. Hatice gitmiş. Bir ses duydum. Hatice sen misin diye bağırdım. Benim dedi. Dedim sakın bırakma geleceğim. Hatice'nin sesi de gitti. Allah'ım nereye gideyim? Yani nereye yüzeyim? Kapkaranlık bir şey, gözünün önünü göremiyorsun. Ne yapacağını bilemiyorsun. Gitti. Mahşeri yaşamak nedir? Bilmiyorum ama herhalde o mahşerdi. Allah mahşeri yaşattı. Elimden gitti hepsi.
I was shocked. The wife and 3 children of one of my colleagues, Murat, was lost in Maritsa. Within a few days, they found the bodies of those innocent children. I put myself in Murat's place. I will never understand how painful it was. I can only imagine the sorrow Murat has faced. I never thought these things could happen to us, to my family, my friends, or the people around me. But here we are. Men, women, and children, and infants, died while crossing Maritsa to reach their freedom. They are all free now, in paradise.
According to Human Rights Watch, Turkey has been experiencing a deepening of human rights crisis over the past 4 years with a dramatic erosion of its rule of law and democracy framework. Journalists, opposition politicians, activists, and human rights defenders are being targeted without compelling evidence of criminal activity. Significant human rights issues include reports of arbitrary killings, suspicious deaths of persons in custody, forced disappearances, torture, arbitrary arrest and detention of tens of thousands of persons. According to Amnesty International, the largest group targeted by the Erdogan government in Turkey was people said to have links with the Gulen movement. Currently, as part of Turkey's post-coup crackdown, more than 130,000 people, including judges, academics, teachers, journalists, police, and military officers, as well as other public servants, have been dismissed from their jobs. More than 217,000 people have been detained and 160,000 have been arrested. In total, more than 500,000 people have been investigated in Turkey since the coup attempt. As a result, Turkey ranked 109 out of the 126 countries in 2019 on the Rule of Law Index of the World Justice Project.
I had never been in a police station, not even for a traffic fine, not until I was charged with terrorism in my home country. Terrorism that I had never heard of. Now I'm in the beginning of a new life with my family.
I am thankful to the Almighty God for bringing us here to Canada with my family. We feel safe here, and the place you feel safe is your home.
Nights are cold, dark and gray. I miss the warm nights at our old place. Don't know why things are this way. My mama says this is a phase. I wake up from nightmares every night. It's always me saying my dad goodbye, with my mama's voice singing my lullaby. Now I hear her praying in the moonlight. I ask her what keeps her up every night. She hugs me, she kisses me, she tells me this should have been a lullaby. Playing under starry skies, fairy tales instead of this. Shouldn't see your mother cry. This should have been a lullaby. This should have been a lullaby. Hearses wander through the walls, strangers yelling behind closed doors. No, I can't take this anymore. My mama's been treated like a prisoner of war, covering my ears, shivering in fear. Loud noises, but I don't wanna hear. Broken hearts, but they won't heal. Mama, can you just tell me why we're still here? And as she is trying not to cry, she hugs me, she kisses me, she tells me this should have been a lullaby. Laying under starry skies, fairy tales instead of this. Shouldn't see your mother cry. This should have been a lullaby. This should have been a lullaby. Oh no, this should have been a lullaby. Laying under starry skies, fairy tales instead of this. Shouldn't see your mother cry. This should have been a lullaby. This should